So we already did a show today talking about everything that happened over the weekend. I thought it might be kind of fun to do a show, a quicker one, a little more lightning roundy, where we got into the biggest names that emerged exclusively from the weekend. This is the top 10. I'm actually going to do a couple of honorable mentions at the end. So it's going to be 13 of the most added names in fantasy basketball right now. I'm Dan Besbris. This is Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. Thanks as always for tuning in. Hit the subscribe button. You buttheads, I love you all. Hit the subscribe button as you settle in. Like the show. That's also a big one. Follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris, Old Man Squad on the Blue Sky Network. And check out our buddies at Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. The Super Bowl is over, but that doesn't mean the fun has to stop now, because Bet Online always has in-game live betting. They always have prop bets you can look at. They always have MVP odds on leagues instead of individual games, making Bet Online your ultimate game day companion, offering you all of these things and the ability to watch games as it goes down. So whether you're a first-timer or a seasoned fan, Bet Online makes game day action count just a little bit more. Check them out today. Bet Online. The game starts here. Here is the list of the top 10 most added players across it'd be Yahoo leagues right now, because that to me is the easiest one to display. Number 1, Jaxson Hayes. Number 2, George Niang. Number 3, Aaron Wiggins. Number 4, Vit Krejci. Number 5, Jordan Clarkson. Number 6, Bub Carrington. Number 7, Brandin Podziemski. Number 8, Naji Marshall. Number 9, Bol Bol. And number 10, Jose Alvarado. We're also going to grab a few names from a little farther down the board. I don't want to give you any surprises on what those might be, but stay tuned and I'll make sure that you guys get some analysis on those. My goal here is, because I think we're going to do about 13 names, I want to spend about 1.5 to 2 minutes on each and get this show done, or at least the content part of this show done, in about 25 minutes flat. That way you guys can just get my feelings on each player and why, and then get back to your day. So, first name on the list is Jaxson Hayes, who obviously became a slightly more interesting player when the Mark Williams trade to the Lakers got canceled, nullified, whatever, rescinded, and Mark got sent back to the Charlotte Hornets. But with Luka around and the Lakers likely to run small at times, because frankly, Jaxson Hayes is just not that great of a basketball player, and the idea that the Lakers are probably going to go try to find another center on the buyout market, which is just going to complicate things, and the fact that the Lakers have an injured Maxi Kleber sitting on the roster, who, look, I don't know if he's coming back at any point in this season or in the future, but he's another guy that could kind of throw a little bit of a wrench into things. I think Jaxson Hayes, from a projection standpoint, probably falls more in that 100 to 150 range as opposed to like a must-roster dude. And you're going to get this sort of weird cross-section of games that you've seen from him over the last, well, since Anthony Davis went down. That was in that Washington game, I believe, was when he got hurt. Jaxson had 10-10 with 3 blocks against the Wizards. No, it was the prior game. It was in Philly he got hurt. And then he had 4-2 against the Knicks, 6-6 against the Clippers, 11-3 against the Warriors, and then 9-12 with 2 blocks against the Pacers. So Hayes is all over the map, is basically where this thing comes down to. And I think that's going to be a thing that continues. He's just not a consistent threat. The Lakers are going to have different types of opponents. And so in kind of like this almost best case scenario for Jaxson over the last week and a half or so, he's still barely a top 100 guy. And that's with a steal and 2 blocks happening per ball game, which in 20 some odd minutes a game for him, probably not going to stick long term. So top 100 is kind of a best case scenario for Hayes. Probably more like, 125, 150, which is fine. That plays in some spots. But for me, I don't think he's a must roster guy. George Niang is the next name on the board. And this one surprised the crap out of me because I didn't think he was going to be the starter when he went to Atlanta. And he was, at least in game 1. And if you look at Niang's game log over the season, over his career, whatever, when he's gotten 26 to 30 some odd minutes, he's been pretty close to startable. The issue is the minutes have never been consistent. And he does very little besides score, hit a lot of three-pointers at actually a pretty damn good clip. Rebounds a hair. Like, his rebounds are fine, but he doesn't get assists, he doesn't get steals, he doesn't get blocks. So he's capped out a little bit in terms of what the overall numbers might be. But if you are hunting threes, he might end up profiling as sort of Malik Beasley-like, but with slightly better percentages and maybe slightly fewer threes. So again, specialist appeal to be sure. But again, like, if he's out there with Trae Young for 20, let's say he gets up to 27, 28 minutes, he probably gets up to around 10 shots a game. Because the Hawks are going to play fast. They need dudes who can space the floor, and now he's one of them. Do I think this sticks long term? I don't really know. So again, I don't think he's a must-add guy, but I did add him on one or two teams just to see what the next couple of games look like. Not my top guy on this list, but also kind of like a maybe. Aaron Wiggins is the next name on the list. How am I doing so far? Am I around 2-ish minutes per player? Wiggins is an interesting test case because he has been scoring like a son of a gun, but kind of in weird little bunches. And also, a lot of it's tied to who's in and who's out. We've seen Dort in and out of the lineup lately for the Thunder. Maybe more importantly, we've seen Cason Wallace fully out of the lineup lately for the Thunder. Isaiah Joe hurt his knee in the Thunder's last ball game. So they're just missing some pieces right now. And Wiggins has gone out, and he's gone lava hot. He scored 40 on February 1st, and you guys can see this on your screen if you're watching on YouTube, which again, hey, take a second as I try to remind you guys, please subscribe to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. It's so important in our continued growth. But for Wiggins, you know, over these last 5 ball games, 40 minutes, 26, 25, 33, 38, he has a grand total of 3 steals and 1 block. He's not doing that. He had a 14 rebound game and an 11 rebound game, sandwiched around a 1, a 6, and a 3. It's very unclear what the hell this dude's fantasy stat set is actually going to be. The one thing we know for sure is that he's not going to shoot 60% on high volume forever. However, it's important to note he is an efficient shooter. He's a 51%er in his career. He's a 39% three-point shooter in his career. He's 79 at the free throw line and 85% this season. What's weird right now, and what we can't really get a feel for is, are there going to be any steals? Probably not. Are the rebounds going to stick at like double digits in 2 out of 5 games? Probably not. Is he going to hit 8 3-pointers a game, or is it going to be more like 1? I don't know. Probably maybe 2 to 3. Is that enough? Short term, yes. With all these guys stay out for the Thunder, Wiggins you can call an injury play. But we know it's short term, and we know the wheels could come off at any moment. So again, Aaron Wiggins on a serious heater, sort of stream at your risk, but it does seem like it's probably okay to do right now. Here's Vit Krejci. I talked about him a little bit on our big weekend recap show, so I don't want to recap all of that on this one and basically just repeat myself on consecutive podcasts. But Krejci is officially now a member of what I've called in the past the Marvin Thad line, which is guys who, if they play 29 minutes or more, immediately have fantasy value. If they don't, then they don't. And the game log pretty much tells that story. If you go through the Vit Krejci game log and you find the games where he's at 29 minutes or more, it's almost 100% of them that he has a fantasy line worth using. Here's one at Toronto on December. He only scored 5 points, but he had 3 steals, a block, and a 3-pointer. He didn't even shoot in that game, and he still had a fantasy line. He's got some 28.5s here that sort of muddy up the water a little, but 34 against Phoenix, 15, 5, and 6 with 2 steals. 29 the very next game against Chicago, 11, 3, and 6 with 2 blocks and a 3-pointer. He had 3 threes against Phoenix, by the way. 33 in New York, 11, 2, and 4 with a steal and 3 threes. Not great, but good enough. 35 against Toronto again. It seems to be a matchup where they like to use Krejci. Only 4 points, but 5 boards, 6 assists, a steal. This is, again, like how as bad as it could get. The very next game, 36 minutes, 13, 5, and 2, 2 steals, a block, and 2 3-pointers. And his last 2 games, 11 and then 12 points, 10 and then 8 rebounds, averaging 5 assists, 1 steal and 2 blocks combined between the two. He has 7 threes. So here's the thing. Do we know whether or not he's going to get 29 minutes a game? The Hawks brought in all these other wings. Niang was one of them. We already talked about him. Karis LeVert, Terrence Mann, all of these guys showed up. They only sent out, really, DeAndre Hunter as the wing on the move. I don't know if Vit Krejci gets 29 minutes a game. But from an overall 9-cat stat set appeal, there is enough there. And so I think I probably would add him on a lot of teams. Maybe not everyone. But I think you got to at least consider it, even if the upside is not all that high. Next on the list is Jordan Clarkson. You guys know my feelings on Clarkson. So the minutes are really good over his last 3 games. Some of that is because he's actually played in them, even though the other veterans have not. In not all of them, I guess I should say. So like the last time out, Utah ran the skeleton crew. So, of course, he got 19 shots up. But the game before that, he took 19 shots as well. And the one before that, he took 17 shots. Clarkson's a wreck. He's going to ruin your field goal percent. He doesn't get many defensive stats. He's had a few lately, but that is a little bit more of an anomaly. Turnovers tend to be much worse than they have been here, although I'll admit some of that, having Isaiah Collier, an actual point guard next to him, is helpful. So what the hell do we do? That's the question. We can talk about Jordan Clarkson until our mouth runs dry. He is probably an ad right now, while Utah is, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of figuring out when they want to play their guys. It seems like they're going to play their starters against good competition in non-back-to-back scenarios. So, like, I would expect you see the Utah starters tonight in LA. That's a big ESPN game. Does that mean that Clarkson goes down the toilet? Maybe, maybe not. Lakers have been defending well. Is that going to be the thing that knocks him off the pedestal? Maybe. Does he play in the game on Wednesday against the Lakers in Utah when the other guys probably sit? That's a game that I would probably play Clarkson. So I think what I would do here, because I do believe the minutes remain a bit unpredictable for Jordan, even if they've been consistent the last 3 games, and maybe it's just because Colin Sexton's been out, maybe that's the ticket here. My current feeling, and I reserve the right to change this maybe slightly towards the positive with him, is if the regular starters are out, like if John Collins is sitting and Kessler's sitting and Markkanen's sitting, or it doesn't even have to be all of those guys, maybe just one or those guys, then I probably would play Clarkson as an injury play. If all of those guys are in and the only one that's out is Sexton, I might be too nervous to drop him in there, even though it went well against Golden State. I think that's where I'm at with Clarkson right now. But if he keeps this up a little bit longer and it looks like he's really just going to be sort of a better shooting guard type because he doesn't have to be point, because that could be Collier, then maybe I'll crank him up one click in whether or not I care. Bub Carrington, next name on the list. He's looked pretty good in 2 of his last 3 ball games, and I don't think it's a coincidence that it's since the Wizards sent out Kyle Kuzma. What I do think is somewhat coincidental is that he's gotten hot. This is a kid who's shot 40% his rookie year. He shot 63, 56, and 69 in his last 3 ball games. That's just not going to keep up. And it's not. Might want it to, but it's not. The assists have been nice, but we also don't really know what's going to go on with Brogdon, Smart, and Middleton. Brogdon's played sort of limited minutes in the last couple of ball games. Bub Carrington is that guy that I'm fully aware I'm probably going to run a little bit late on. Like, if this thing turns out to be the start of a massive run, I'm going to be late on it. And I'm okay with that because I don't really trust the overall fantasy stat set. He doesn't get many steals. The assists are a thing that I think could be okay, and they've been pretty good the last 3 games, but I don't think it's going to be consistently good. He doesn't rebound that much. The 3 balls are falling right now, but that hasn't been that great either. The percentages have both been kind of meh leading up to it. And so there just needed to be a lot of things to get better for it actually to make sense on an ad. So I'm not there yet. I'm still watch listing Bub. And again, fully aware that I might get that one wrong and I might be too slow. Brandin Podziemski is the next name on the board. I've lost track of what number we're at right now. We're a little bit more than halfway through. Pods, as they call him, looked really good. 16, 5, and 7 in Jimmy Butler's first game. Most importantly here is it does seem like with the Warriors sending out a bunch of dudes and only getting Butler back, there's just enough playing time around for Podziemski and possibly Buddy Hield. I think we're going to talk about him later on this show. I think he's one of our honorable mentions. Podziemski's percentages is where I worry. He's at 43.5% from the field. He's at 75 at the free throw line, but he's 12 of his last 19 from the foul line. So is that a number that's coming down back towards where it was last year at 63%? Yes, he rebounds well for his position. Yes, he passes well for his position. His steals are fine, if unspectacular. He does not block shots. So we need the percentages to be okay. I cannot promise that they're going to be okay. Because 10 shots or so probably isn't enough for him long term. He's not going to make 7 out of 11 every ball game. He's going to make, 4 to 5 out of 10 most of those times. So what is that? 11, 12 points? Is he going to play enough to get to 5 rebounds? Maybe. Is he going to play enough to get to 3.5, 4 assists? Maybe. So is 11, 5, and 4 on terrible percentages, is that going to be enough? I'm leaning slightly towards no, but I did add him in a couple of places just because it seems like there's a pathway to something. And certainly if you're punting one of his bad things, that makes it a little bit easier to get on board. So Podziemski, I think it's straight 9 cat. He probably doesn't quite get inside the top 100, but in punt builds, you might be able to wiggle him into that kind of, 8th round value kind of thing. Next name on the board was Naji Marshall. To me, this one is actually one of our easier ones because Marshall's fantasy game is extremely limited. He's pretty much points and rebounds, and that's about it. His steals kind of come and go. He's not bad at steals. He'll probably get you about 1 a game in okay minutes. And his percentages are not they're not great. They're not terrible. He's around 50% this year. His career more like 45. But again, 45 is not going to break you. Free throw numbers pretty decent this year as well. But it just comes down to whether or not he's going to get enough shots up. In the last few ball games, he has, because the Mavs have been missing different players, but they might again miss different players. And so for Marshall, the question isn't whether or not he's going to be a rest of season guy, because he's not. The question is going to be whether or not he's worth a short-term play, because we know Anthony Davis is out for a couple of weeks. Max Christie and PJ Washington and Dante Exum, all of those guys are questionable for the Mavs ball game coming up tonight. If those guys sit, I would stream the crap out of Naji Marshall. If all of them besides AD play, I probably would be too nervous to stream him. Because you might get 10 shots out of Marshall, but that might give you, a game like February 2nd in Cleveland where he hit 5 of them. That's not bad. But he's not a big 3-point guy either. And so that got you 12 and 6. And that was it. That's not really enough. Not enough to justify using a move, and definitely not enough to justify using a games cap. The next name on the list, okay. Bol Bol, who had 19 and 7 with a steal and 4 blocks in his last ball game. Yes, the minutes have been trending up in a big way because the Suns are beyond banged up right now. They were down Kevin Durant. They were down Bradley Beal. They were down Grayson Allen in their last ball game. And Bol got kind of hot, and so they just freaking let her rip. No, I'm not adding Bol Bol. There is absolutely zero guarantee that he gets even 10 minutes in their next ball game, let alone 24 or 33. Obviously, if he plays 24 minutes, he's going to block a few shots because he's the longest man we've ever seen at 7'3", 220. That is a spindle of a basketball player. That's not the right terminology. He's a thread. And we know this doesn't stick. And maybe he does have one more good ball game if half the Suns are still hurt. But I can't do it. It's too ballsy. It's too much. Jose Alvarado. This is the 10th most. Remember, this is by volume. Alvarado is the 10th most added player over the last day on Yahoo. And I think it should be way higher than that because he started for the Pels in their game 2 days ago. He had only 5 points, and that's kind of why he slipped under the radar a little bit, but 9 assists, 3 steals, and a three-pointer. That's the beauty of Alvarado. And we saw it earlier this year when enough guys in the backcourt were down, and then Jose got himself hurt, and it ruined the whole thing. Remember this stretch? I'm highlighting it on the screen for you YouTubers. It was October 30th to November 11th. Alvarado kicked it into high gear. He had 16 points, 5 boards, 4 assists. Then he had 12, 6, and 7, 9 points, 7 assists, 18 and 6, 27 and 5, 21, 5 and 5, and then he got hurt. I mean, we were cooking, man. We had the assists going, we had the threes going, we had the steals going. It was all the stuff that we know Alvarado can do when he gets starters minutes. And if that's about to happen again, I don't want to miss it. And it's going to happen tonight because CJ McCollum already got ruled out on top of all the other guys that are already hurt for the Pels, like Herb Jones and most importantly, DeJounte Murray, who's out for the year. For McCollum, it's personal reasons, so that's not a long one. And I'll admit, I kind of wanted to see what Alvarado was going to do if they had their regulars in there, but screw it. I've already got him on my teams at this point, so McCollum being out just means we're kind of guaranteed an Alvarado decent. Like, I would think that 24, 25 is the absolute low water mark for his minutes today, and it might be more like 32. And I'm definitely playing Alvarado in 32 minutes because the worst case scenario there is like 5 assists and probably a steal or 2. And most likely it would be a hell of a lot better than that. Also, he's missed so much time already this year. If the team starts shutting people down, he might continue playing. By the way, you might get a Jordan Hawkins game with McCollum out, but let's wait and see what happens there and kind of try to read who's benefiting from what. But I picked up a lot of Alvarado over the weekend, and he's in a great spot for a game today. A couple of honorable mentions that were not on the list we talked about before. Richaun Holmes is the first one. To me, I just wanted to get him on here and take 15 seconds to say, we love Richaun Holmes, and we have for a long time. His game translates to fantasy really well because he shoots the free throw well. He's a good field goal percent guy. He gets steals. He gets blocks. He just is like something happened during that Sacramento 2021-22 year, and he fell off the map. Then they brought in Sabonis, and so everything was cooked at that point. And he hasn't really been able to find his game since then. But the Wizards are so thin that we're getting a Richaun resurgence. 9 and 5 with a block, 12 and 12 with a block, 10 and 8 with a block. Always, you can typically rely on the percentages. I think he's, 7 out of 9 free throws over that stretch. It's good enough. I would expect actually more steals and blocks. I know he's just not the same guy, but I think you can roll Richaun Holmes until Alex Sarr comes back. Keon Ellis is the next honorable mention on the list. I wanted to throw him in there because of that 32-minute performance in his last ball game. He doesn't need 30 minutes. He needs about 26, 27 to be fantasy relevant, which, again, I can't promise he's going to get that, but it sure seems freaking close right now with Kevin Huerter being gone and Zach LaVine replacing De'Aaron Fox. Yes, they brought in Jake LaRavia. Yes, they brought in Jonas Valanciunas. Could LaRavia kind of carve into the Keon Ellis bench role? Maybe. But all year long, the Kings have just been better when Ellis is on the floor. And it's sort of hard to figure out why he's not out there for 27 minutes every ball game, but he hasn't been. Sometimes I think they just figure they need different stuff. I'm very close to calling Keon Ellis a pickup in most formats. I'm like right on the borderline, but I kind of want to see one more game, and that could be tonight. And the last name we're going to talk about on today's show, before we give you the breakdown on Buddy Hield, we're going to give you the breakdown on UnderdogFantasy.com. I already put my picks in for today, guys. I went lower than 26.5 points on Luka Doncic and lower than 22.5 point rebound assist PRA on Walker Kessler. And if you want to get involved and play that card with me, it's easy. You go to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code OLDMAN at signup, OLDMAN, or even easier, just click the link in the show description. That'll take you to UnderdogFantasy.com. The referral link or the promo code will unlock up to $1,000 in bonus cash in your account when you make that first deposit, and a free play. So maybe you don't like both of my calls today. Maybe you just like the Luka under. Easy. You go lower than 26.5 on Luka and use your free play on the other one. Boom. That's how you get it. You can win your ticket that easy. Underdog is fun. I actually really am enjoying myself with this one, and I don't like DFS. Full disclosure, I find it complicated and confusing and annoying, and I don't have the time to do it all on a daily basis. But with this one, you can just have a couple of really quick angles. You don't have to worry about like DFS pricing. You go to Underdog, you go to their projections. They've got a bunch of players and a bunch of different projections on every ball game. Pick your card together. If you want to go 2 names, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever, like you can make your ticket as long as you like, or you can go simple. I tend to go simple. I think it's an easier way to sort of slow build, and that's what we're doing today. So come hang out with us over at Underdog. Let's play together. Come play with me. Here's Buddy Hield. Last name I want to talk about. Last name of the honorable mentions. Looking back at that transactions board, Rashawn Holmes was number 11, 11th most added. Keon Ellis was 14th most added, and Buddy Hield is the 18th most added. And I'm a little surprised that Hield is way down there, and Brandin Podziemski is way up there. I guess I get it, because Podziemski has the rebounds and the assists, and Hield doesn't really do that as much. But Buddy also has way fewer places that he hurts you. His scoring is typically better. His turnovers are lower. His free throw number is better. His field goal percent is about the same. His threes are better. Podziemski is going to win rebounds. I don't think the assists are going to be all that different between those two guys, by the way. Pods might beat him by like 1. So I actually prefer Buddy Hield right now. He was also seeing decent minutes, actually got the start. And that doesn't surprise me, because with Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green in the starting lineup, the Warriors need 3-point shooters, or the paint is going to get jammed up, and then Steph is not going to have room to operate. And just having Hield out there standing 2 feet beyond the 3-point line, that makes life easier for the other guys on offense. Buddy Hield is not that great at a lot of other things. But again, it doesn't surprise me that he got 28 minutes as a starter in their last one. I don't know if he's going to close. I know that game was a blowout, so would he have gotten back into it? Probably not. So with Hield, you're probably hoping for 26, 27 minutes. But historically, that's been enough for him. So I actually like Buddy Hield. He's one of my favorite ads among at least these 13 names we talked about. Maybe not on the overall board. There's more interesting guys in the wake of the trade deadline. But like among these names, everybody's going out there and going, oh, Aaron Wiggins, he scored 40. But like, he's not going to be good for that much longer. Rashawn Holmes, okay, injury stream. I don't know when Jonathan Kuminga's coming back. Is that the thing that blows up Podziemski and Hield? Possibly. But that could be weak still. So, yeah, I'm good. I'm good with Buddy Hield right now. I'm weirdly high on him. I know he's going to screw it up at some point, because that's how it always goes with Buddy Hield. But right now, I actually think he's probably worth it. And that's your show. And you know the rule. If you make it to this point, you have to subscribe. Sorry, I didn't make the rule, but I do enforce it. You don't have to do anything else, but I would kindly ask you to once again check out our partners at BetOnline and Underdog Fantasy, and follow me over elsewhere. Social media at Dan Besbris on Twitter, Old Man Squad on Blue Sky. And I've been talking about it a lot on shows lately. I'm doing my nightly recaps in Discord these days. Come hang out with me in Discord. It sounds scary. Nothing is actually discorded. It's not scary. I promise you. It's just a chat room. It's just a wall of chat rooms. You can pick the one you like. Every day, at the end of the day, I open up a new room called The Date and then the word Storm, and then I do my storm, which is typically on Twitter in the evening. But this is a time of year where Twitter gets a little quieter, and for me, it's just easier to type it as I go in Discord. So come hang with us there. That is also everything that you need to know is in the show description. I know no one ever clicks into it, but like just expand the description. You'll see links to all the different things that I talk about, the free Google sheet, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. By the way, a couple of updates on injury news. If you happen to be watching this now, sounds like LaMelo Ball is back for the Hornets. Thank the good Lord for that. Mark Williams is not back with the team yet. Yusuf Nurkic is not on the injury report. So with Musa Diabate questionable, there might be a Nurk night. We'll tweet about that if it breaks. That's why you follow on social. See? There's always a reason. I'm Dan. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Hit that like button on the way out. And please, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, let's get a few more 5-star reviews before the season wraps up. Thanks again, everybody. I'll talk to you all soon.